Alright, so we have two of the best camera devices around the rupees 50,000 price tag, which is the OnePlus 10T and the Google Pixel 7. Now, of course, they have the bigger brothers that are the established flagships, the OnePlus 10 Pro in this case and the Pixel 7 Pro in this case. But of course, nobody wants to spend that amount of money. I mean, there are people who want to, but the main folks, like the mainstream users, have a price budget of about 50,000 for their essential flagship devices. And if you are just about the camera experience, which of these phones makes the better choice for you? Is it the OnePlus 10T or the Google Pixel 7? Well, that's exactly what we'll be talking about in this video, because in today's video, we'll be focusing purely on just the camera part of both of these phones to see which phone captures better photos and, more importantly, which camera performance is more suitable to you. So without wasting any time, this is One from GTR and let's get started. Alright, so first things first, let's get the specs out of the way. The Google Pixel 7 comes with a 50MP primary sensor coupled with a 12MP ultrawide sensor. Up front, you get a 10.8MP ultrawide selfie shooter. Now over to the OnePlus 10T, you have a 50MP primary sensor coupled with an 8MP ultrawide sensor and a 2MP macro sensor, which of course nobody cares about. As for selfies, there's a 16MP selfie shooter as well. Okay, so those were the numbers, but let's talk about actual performance, starting with daylight shots. Now right off the bat, the first thing to notice is in terms of the overall color processing. See, while both the phones click impressive shots, there's a clear difference in how each phone perceives it. Like in this shot, the Pixel 7 clicks a more closer to reality and sharp image, while on the other hand, OnePlus goes for a vibrant tone that definitely feels more picturesque. It has that cinematic feel to it, which makes the colors pop. Now the same is evident in this next shot as well, where the Pixel goes for a realistic approach, thus darkening the shadows and making the whole image look closer to how things were at the time of clicking the image. On the other hand, the 10T tends to brighten the image while also adding a bit of noise to it. Now one thing that's evident is that OnePlus likes blues quite a lot. As you can see in this image, OnePlus adds a blue cool tone to the overall image. The Pixel's image is an exact replica of the colors of what one would see with their eyes. But the general tone remains the same, that OnePlus likes to make images more vibrant. For instance, even in this simple shot of a flower, both the phones have equally detailed shots. But even so, OnePlus boosts the colors and in some areas even adds more color just to make the image more vibrant. Now this vibrance technique is evident even in HDR conditions. For instance, in this shot, at the time of clicking, there was literally no blue tone in the sky. I mean, at least no blue tone could be perceived by the naked eye. And yet, OnePlus has added a bluish tint to the sky. With that being said, I can't argue with the fact that OnePlus's image does look more appealing in a more vibrant manner. Now, on the other hand, the Pixel's shot looks more crisp, neat, and closer to reality. Also, speaking of HDR, it's important to highlight how each phone perceives the concept of HDR. See, for the Google Pixel 7, HDR means capturing that high dynamic range while also ensuring that the overall tone of the image is closer to that of reality. I mean, it's as close as to how your eyes would actually see it. For the OnePlus 10T, it's a different approach. What it does is that it controls the highlights as much as it can. It boosts the shadows as much possible to just give you a wider range of colors, but that also means that you also get a lot of noise in those shots. See, this shot would explain what I'm trying to say. Now, most folks would jump to the conclusion that OnePlus's HDR is better simply because the tree barks are better illuminated and you can also see the gradient of the sun in the background. However, this comes at a cost, which is the noise, which is present in abundance in the 10T shot. Also, that pinkish hue at the top of the image is something that OnePlus devices are notoriously famous for, especially in HDR images, when they try to needlessly boost the shadows better. Now, that's not to say that the Pixel shot is perfect by any means, but if you ask me, I would any day pick the Pixel shot here. Also, this boosting shadows technique of OnePlus only kicks in tough conditions. For instance, in this shot, the Pixel 7 does a far better job of capturing a higher dynamic range than the OnePlus 10T. Alright, so I quickly want to talk about the other camera modes here, starting off with the ultrawide cameras. Now both the phones capture decent ultrawide images at the offset. OnePlus does illuminate things better, although to be honest, that is boosted brightness because the Pixel does a better job of showcasing the lighting conditions as realistically as possible. One advantage that the Pixel has is that if you zoom into the image, you can clearly see that it has more details than the OnePlus 10T shot, and that definitely comes in handy. Next up, let's talk about the 2x zoom shots. But first, here's a look at the normal camera shots, which again have the same properties as we've seen so far. Realistic shots on the Pixel, vibrant shots on the 10T. Now switching to the 2x camera mode, you'll notice that again both the images are quite detailed. Pixel does add a bit of more structure to the image, while OnePlus boosts the overall brightness once again. But then again, both phones click quite comparable shots. In fact, even upon zooming into the image, you'll notice that both the phones are neck to neck in terms of details, so even then, it's good competition. Alright, so moving along, let's talk about human shots. So as you can see in this first shot, the Pixel captures a more contrasty shot that highlights the black tone of my t-shirt much better. The face is also better structured and the skin tones are also quite realistic. On the other hand, the OnePlus 10T smoothens out the skin texture and adds a bit of a reddish tint to it as well. Now one thing that's noteworthy is that when zooming upon the images, OnePlus does have more details, which is evident by the clarity of my beard. Now, while this might be basic over sharpening, it definitely means that the overall image does look a bit more sharper. Moving on to this next shot, off the bat, both the phones click stunning shots that are equally good. One thing that stands out though is that OnePlus makes the face look a bit brighter. Pixel, on the other hand, goes for a contrasty shot. Now, other than that, it's a very close competition and you can hardly go wrong with either of them. Even in this next shot, the OnePlus 10T has a more brighter and vibrant image. If I personally had to post a picture out of these two on my Instagram handle, it would any day be the one from the OnePlus 10T. See, the Pixel shot is far more realistic though, which means that you can tune it to your liking. Switching to the portrait modes, the first thing to highlight is the fact that Pixel zooms into the frame while OnePlus shoots from the same distance. Now, the shot quality remains the same, with OnePlus highlighting the face better and boosting the brightness, while Pixel going for a more realistic shot with slightly boosted contrast. Now, as far as the edge detection is concerned, both the devices do a decent job here. I will say that the bokeh looks a tad bit more natural on the Pixel 7, but honestly, it's a very close call to be honest. Alright, so moving on, let's talk about selfies. Now, this was a fun test. See, right off the bat, when it comes to selfie photos, the Pixel 7 easily kicks the OnePlus 10T out of the park. Be it HDR or details or color accuracy, the Pixel 7 easily wins the selfie round. See, in tough conditions, yes, the Pixel is the outright winner. However, in more ideal conditions like this one, the OnePlus 10T does an excellent job. I mean, sure, the skin tones are a little bit inaccurate and we do see a slight reddish tint here and there, but for the most part, as we've seen so far as well, OnePlus's image does look more vibrant here. Not to forget that the Pixel 7 essentially uses a lower megapixel ultrawide sensor here, so it has to rely more on software processing. The OnePlus 10T has better hardware in terms of the selfie shooter, and as you can see, the images are more detailed on the 10T. This is also because of the fact that Pixel goes for an infinite focus, while the 10T has a focus on your face right where you want it to be. Switching to the portrait mode, both the phones do a decent job in terms of edge detection, so no complaints there. Alright, so moving on, let's take a look at the selfie video footage. So we're recording selfie footage, which is capped at 1080p 30 fps on the OnePlus 10T, which is on my left, and the Pixel 7, which is on my right side. One thing to note is that the Pixel 7 can actually support 4K recording at 60 fps, while the OnePlus 10T just caps out at 1080p 30 fps. So yeah, just to keep things balanced, this is being recorded at the same settings. At the time of recording, OnePlus's footage definitely seems a bit more sharper, but apart from the extra detailing, everything else looks far better on the Pixel 7. Now, just to give you a comparison, I will be recording a comparison of the selfie footage on the Pixel 7 with the 4K mode as well, just to give you how good or bad the Pixel 7's 4K front camera is. Once again, like I said, recording selfie footage, OnePlus 10T on my left, Pixel 7 on my right side, but this time the Pixel 7 is recording footage at 4K 30 footage at 4K 30 fps. One thing I'd like to highlight is that because of the exact amount of difference that you see in terms of sharpening at the time of recording, it just makes you think that maybe the Pixel 7 is just out of focus, but that's not really the case. But actually, is it? Hold on, I'm getting confused now. Let me just tap to focus on my face. Nothing changed. I think even in this frame on the Pixel, I think the tree looks sharper than my face at the time of recording, which is weird. Hold on, let me just do the same frame on the OnePlus as well. Yeah, the Pixel does not really make my face look any sharper, at least at the time of recording. So while we're on the topic of videos, how about seeing how these rear cameras of both the phones perform? Let's take a look. So we're recording 4K 30 FPS footage on the OnePlus 10T, which is on my left, and the Pixel 7, which is on my right side. They're both on standard stabilization mode, but the footage looks extremely stable on both the phones at the time of walking. I'm briskly walking right now, but yeah, the footage seems very stable. Just gonna pan the camera around so you can get an idea of the HDR as well as the colors. And yeah, I mean, they're both excellent devices, I would say, in terms of video recording. Here's a better glimpse of the HDR performance. It's a close call, to be honest, but I think the Pixel slightly edges it out. I mean, at least in terms of color accuracy and the HDR performance. Though, with that being said, I think OnePlus's footage looks a bit more detailed. But then again, it could be over sharpened as well. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys feel about it? Okay, so now let's talk about the low light performance. Starting off with this shot, which was taken from my balcony, it's nice to see that both the phones do a good job of illuminating the image. The 10T does boost the colors once again, which definitely makes all the lights pop. So take your pick on the kind of processing. Now the same can be said for the rest of these low light shots as well, where essentially both devices do an excellent job of removing the noise and balancing the lights. Now keep in mind that all of these low light shots have been clicked with the respective night modes to get the best possible results. Now the gist here is the same. Pixel has realistic shots, OnePlus has more vibrant shots. Also, a couple of you guys did ask me about it, so here are some low-light selfie camera samples. See, for the most part, they're both average. However, when given some basic ass lighting, OnePlus does slightly edge out in terms of keeping the face better illuminated. That's a very slight difference, and I'll be honest, it is very dependent on the overall lighting conditions, so I won't make a big deal out of it. Also, I did record some low-light video footage because we've seen the OnePlus's low-light videos are very different to their photos. So here's a look for you to compare the video performance of both the devices. Alright, so we're recording 4K 30 FPS low-light videos for the Google Pixel 7 on my right side and the OnePlus 10T on my left side. Of course, it's Diwali, so we have lights all around. But yeah, the whole idea of testing video recording in low light conditions was to see how much noise each camera has in the video mode, because we've seen OnePlus usually have a lot of noise. Although at least at the time of recording, the footage definitely looks very crisp on both. Actually, they're both pretty much at par, at least like from what I can see in the viewfinder. Yeah, both the footages look pretty good. I think OnePlus has slightly brighter footage though. Okay, now before we head out to the verdict, a quick word about the overheating, because I'm sure a lot of you guys have been asking me about it. I'm curious about it as well. And see, here's the thing, the Google Pixel 7 definitely heats up, especially when you're like trying to record videos with it. But again, that should come as no surprise because the Tensor G2 processor that's on the Pixel 7 is basically the Snapdragon 888, and I mean, at this point, everyone knows that the Snapdragon 888 is famous for overheating. So yeah, I did not really expect Google to fix anything around it. The processor is flawed by nature, so yeah, this phone does heat, can't help it. On the other hand, the OnePlus 10T comes with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, which is a more modern and far better optimized processor. And thanks to that, the phone evidently did not heat up. I mean, even while recording 4K, the heat wasn't really noticeable, so that's a good thing. With that being said, if we are comparing things and if we have to see that yes, this is like, if we assume that this is the Snapdragon 888, which is like 2 generations behind the 8 Plus Gen 1, even then the Pixel 7 supports 4K 60 FPS recording on both the rear and the front camera. On the other hand, the OnePlus 10T has the selfie video recording capped at just 1080p 30 FPS. Forget 4K, there's no 60 FPS option for the front camera even. I mean, if you're going to be calling your phone a flagship device or a budget flagship or a flagship killer or whatever, if you're just going to be putting the word flagship in your marketing, 4K is one of those things that you should definitely offer, at least nowadays. Okay, so the big question, which device wins? That's the best part, there's no clear answer to it. Or, I mean, the answer basically depends on what kind of processing you like. See, as a critic, I can analyze on the basic judging points, which is like which camera has more details, which camera has better HDR, which camera processes images faster, which camera overheats, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, as a consumer, you need to decide which kind of processing style you prefer. And that's the basic difference between both the devices. They're both excellent phones that basically capture images with excellent details, have good HDR, have a good balance. But the major difference between both of these phones is how they process the images and how they process the colors around it. Now, if you are someone who likes realistic images, who wants photos that are closer to reality and adds a bit of structure to them, the Pixel 7 is the go-to choice. It's clearly, well, something that I would prefer. But yeah, if you are someone who likes vibrant images, then of course the OnePlus 10T is the phone for you. And see, here's the thing. As a personal user, I would any day pick the Pixel 7. But that's because I like that style of processing. In fact, if I wasn't even using the Pixel 7 and I was using the OnePlus 10T or any other device for that matter, I would then be going into Snapseed or Lightroom and then editing images later on to get a result that's closer to what the Pixel 7 produces. Or I would just use Google Camera. But yeah, basically the point is I like the kind of processing that Google gives me. But again, that's a personal choice. A lot of people want images that don't really add that much structure to it. I mean, one of the things that I've heard about Google is that a lot of people don't like Google Camera because they say they bring out the reality in their face. They want themselves to look pretty. They don't want Google Camera to highlight how they actually look. It's a fair opinion. Everyone has their own choices. And that's the thing with the OnePlus 10T. It does beautify things. It does add more vibrance to shot. It does give that cinematic oomph to it. So yeah, if you're someone who clicks a photo, then goes on to like post it on Instagram, but then has to go through a couple of filters to just get a more natural but more vibrant feel to it, well, just go for the OnePlus 10T. It will give you that result right out of the box. Well, that was it. And as always with all of our detailed camera comparisons, you can find the download links to all of our camera samples down there in the description box. It's a direct download link to all of the camera samples straight from the devices, untouched, unedited by any means. You can check the EXIF info if you want. You can analyze, you can compare the photos, and of course, if you have any feedback, the comment section is down there and I would love to have a chat with you guys. Also, if this hard work did basically mean that this video made any sense to you, then you can show us your appreciation by liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more awesome tech content. Till then, this is Juan from GTR, and I'll see you in the next one.